Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk about the general overview of October. There's quite a lot of aspects going on this month, so let's break it down into what's the most important and then drill down into each of these aspects. So first thing to note is that we have a Libra solar eclipse, which is a time of the new moon at 21 degrees of Libra occurring on the 14th of the month. I've already made a separate video for the eclipses. There are fateful events. There are some major changes that can happen in the Libran part of your charts, and this is a time of major release in order to rebalance or find a level of fairness, justice, and equality within that Libra area of your chart. And next we have another eclipse, but this is a lunar eclipse. It's a time of a full moon and is occurring in Taurus at 5 degrees. This is occurring on the 28th of the month. So this month is full of eclipse energies. Both the new moon and the full moon events are eclipses, so it seems like a major turnaround. There can be certain curveballs, resolutions, and again letting go of certain things in order to find a rebalancing or evaluation, re-evaluation, revisiting of certain beliefs and conditioning and so on, which can help us down the line. This also I cover in my eclipse specific reading. I will just mention how this affects in your house, but there are a lot more details going into this that I talk about in that separate video. I would recommend you check it out for that. All right, now let's talk about the seasons. We have Libra season, and then later on the sun moves into Scorpio, and that brings us to Scorpio season. And Libra season is all about that, again, harmony. It's kind of that transition point, the midpoint, and like the equinoxes happened and we are now moving into the days becoming a little bit shorter, or you're trying to cultivate more peace, harmony, and communication with relationships and so on that come with that season. And with Scorpio season, we talk about purging, releasing, detoxifying ourselves, and also transforming ourselves for the better. Now, when the sun moves into Scorpio, which is on the 23rd of the month, we also have Mars already in Scorpio, and Mars moves into Scorpio on the 12th. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. It's deeper, darker, more mysterious. It has more of that research mindset, and it does not like to rest before finding the true answer. These are the basic themes that are going on. Meanwhile, the Libra season, we will have Mercury and Mars over there till half the month at least, and that itself is going to have this oomph of the activism and detoxing in order to compromise or to sacrifice certain things that are just like that they're not beneficial to growth or harmony anymore. It is more communicative because Mercury is present as well, and it wants to strive even harder than general to strike this sense of balance. Next thing to note is that we have 7 oppositions and 7 trines. And oppositions are all about me and you. They take into account feedbacks, decisions, and balancing. And all of the elements are being involved, so everyone is going to feel this to some level or the other. Then the 7 trines that we have, they are easy to take for granted. That's kind of the trine energy because they bring about automatic blessings and resolutions of things. And this month we generally are looking at water and earth trines. There is one fire trine, but it's mostly the feminine energies that we're talking about. So there is more receptivity that is going to be blessed, or it can be emotional and physical, material topics that are going to be blessed around this time. Now, trines also bring about harmony within anything that is ongoing as a struggle. Okay, now we have some planets changing signs and direction as well. We have Mercury moving into Libra on the 5th. We have Venus moving into Virgo on the 9th. We have Pluto going from retrograde to direct motion in the sign of Capricorn on the 11th. And this is an important date because this is a time that you can experience certain turnarounds and breakthroughs and transformations. So if you've been struggling with a specific fear or an insecurity or a sense of powerlessness, this can be a time where you recognize, oh wait, this is where I hold my power, or this is how I can call back my power, money, or I can transform myself to feel more like myself. And we have Mercury, who later moves into Scorpio on the 22nd. Now let's talk about the North Node. It has been quite activated throughout this month through trines, oppositions, and conjunctions. And the North Node represents where fate is intervening. And of course, we do have the eclipses, which engages that North Node. It's an orb of that. So we can expect some fateful interventions occurring throughout the month, sprinkled here and there. Different parts of the month will activate different zodiacs. We'll get into that in the zodiac specific part, but we can definitely expect some turnarounds. There can be purposeful developments as well, and there can be a desire to work towards purpose, almost exclusively towards purpose, at least in certain pockets of this month. It's important to take risks because the North Node is in the sign of Aries. So doing something that you're generally afraid of doing, that can be quite blessed. The opportunities will come in, and it's more so about rolling with them. For example, someone might need to learn to say no. Meanwhile, certain people may need to learn to say yes, and that's going to be subjective as to what the opportunity is. It'll be based on your personal experience. But yes, there will be this factor of it's scary for me to say yes to certain things, or it's scary for me to say no to certain things. So it's important to go forward with that area because you know that it is going to bring greater balance into your life. And you can know that because the North Node promises this greater fulfillment if we can push past that initial hurdle or that initial fear. Okay, so let's get into the specifics now. So Cancerians, let's talk about you guys. I'm going to go sequentially over this month. Last month there were a lot of separate storylines going on, so I broke it down into those stories. But for the month of October, it's pretty sequential. I did mention some general overview in the general overview section. I would recommend you watch that or rather listen to it because it'll give you a general idea of what's happening throughout the month and what you can expect. Okay, so let's get into it. On the 2nd, we have an opposition between Mercury and Neptune, and Mercury is in Virgo in your 3rd house of communication, mindset, your local environment and community, as well as siblings and relatives. And Neptune is right opposite that and is retrograde in your 9th house of foreign communication and travels, immigration, foreign documents, or such as long-term contracts, legal situations, belief systems, and your conditioning and all of that. Okay, so with this one, it does not feel the best to me. I'll be honest, this seems a little bit like groggy, sleepy, dreamy, that kind of situation. It is at a harmonious angle to your sign, so it's not going to be out of left field or something like that, but it is still something to just take note of in your environment. For example, you might find that people are saying things that they don't mean, or they're understanding things that was not said, and kind of there's a lot of perceptions and just all of these things kind of going on. You can experience some of these as well, but I think you're able to note that, okay, I'm being silly right now, or this is not what the other person said, but it might feel like it in that time. So if you feel as though there's this kind of fogginess, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself or others, because this is going to pass quite soon, in like a day or two, and the next day itself we have some nice aspects going on. So probably it's not going to be the most major thing that everyone experiences, but yes, it is something to take note of, especially if you want to like sign some things around this time, or are having interviews or important conversations. Okay, on the next day we have a trine between Mercury in Virgo in that third house of yours with Pluto in Capricorn, which is your seventh house. Now Pluto is retrograde here, and this can be again having some important conversations with one other person, or this can again be business contracts or partnerships, and romantic as well, close one-to-one connections such as friendships coming in, client relationships if you have your own business too. This is a favorable aspect, which means that there is harmony, and there can be improving relationships or some nice conversations you have that shows promise for future development, or some positive transformations within existing relationships. Both of these are social houses, so I would expect some lots of conversations, emails, phone calls, these type of situation. Okay, now the same day we have another trine. This is a fire trine. The Venus is in Leo, which is your second house of finances, self-worth, priorities, and values, and the North Node is in Aries, which is in your 10th house of career, ambitions, goals, and your professional outlook, and how other people in general are seeing you, how you are contributing to the world, and so on. So when we have a trine here, this is talking about you feeling fulfilled and prioritized with regards to your work. It can be that you're receiving certain compliments or compensation for some past effort. It can be that you have upped your value and self-worth, and you're kind of asserting yourself in some way, or people are noticing that you are growing and expanding, and that you are a lot more capable than you previously gave yourself credit, or other people gave you credit. So now this makes way for some other new opportunities that come about, especially if you're wanting one. Okay, with astrology, everything is potential, right? This energy is available if you want to tap into it, if you want to work with it, and so on. That's when it becomes most pronounced. Not everyone feels each and every aspect, right? Because maybe you don't care about the finance or the profession part at this time, and that's completely fine. You're on a different path, but there can be certain other Cancerians who are only about that and less about the partnership situation. So yes, it is up to you as to how you want to take advantage of this, but the energy is absolutely available. On the 5th, we have Mercury moving from Virgo into Libra. Now, it was ruling Virgo, so the mind was pretty sharp and observant, analytical, research-oriented, and all of that. But now it comes into your 4th house of home and family, so you're probably looking at how can you reconnect with your family members, especially if there have been certain rifts or misunderstandings. This can be a time that you're sitting down together and having a conversation. Now, Libra also rules aesthetics and beauty, and how can you have harmony in the home, such as feng shui, right? Energetic harmony, emotional, mental harmony. So you might be looking at how do you improve your quality of living such that you feel more in balance within yourself and your local surroundings. Now, the 4th house is where other people are not seeing you. This is your private life, your personal space. It's nobody else's business, okay? So you might be looking into these things, these areas of life, and you're looking at how do I talk to myself? How do I talk to my family? And how have certain conversations with my family in the past affected the way I think and lead my life right now? Okay, it can take on multiple layers depending on, again, which path you're on. Some people might be looking at the more literal things, such as Mercury in Libra can be quite diplomatic. It can talk about, debates and discussions and one-to-one connections and all of that. Meanwhile, there are some more people who are looking into their mindsets, and they're like, well, I feel quite imbalanced and I don't know how to work with my logic, or I don't know how to maintain relationships, and I would like to be better at that. So in that situation, Mercury in Libra takes on that relationship role. Okay. All right. Now, the same day we have another opposition. This is between Mars and the North Node. Now, Mars is in Libra in your fourth house, so there's already a lot of activities and busyness going on over here. And opposite the North Node in Aries, means that there can be certain opportunities or a desire to get back into work or take care of your status, your reputation, your public image, and things like that. So it can be that you would like to be at home because there's some stuff going on there, but you are needed at work, or you needed to be out front and going outside, taking care of responsibilities and things like that. Now, Mars in Libra can be a little bit suppressive about anger or certain emotions that Libra would feel that it is unpleasant. Okay, so I like this opposition in the way that you can channel it towards something not in that immediate environment. So let's say you're having an argument with someone at home and there's just this difference of opinion and there's a lot of things going on, so you don't have the time or the liberty to just sit down and hash it out together in a peaceful manner because everyone's busy or whatever, right? And so this opportunity from your work or somebody calling you like, hey, Cancerian, I need you here. Okay, we need to get this stuff done. You are the expert here, you know how to do this best, and so on. It can be, even though it's a distraction, it can be a welcome relief. Okay, so it can go both ways, that you might feel torn, that you have to be in two places at the same time, but also it can be that it's a welcome respite to like go back and forth between the two. With oppositions, the best way to work with them is to find moderation in whichever measure that you can and kind of flow along with what is coming through. Sometimes there is a decision making or an indecision that happens. But yeah, that's kind of the aspect, and it's going to flow along. It's not a very long-term aspect that's going on, so like in a day or two it is going to resolve itself, especially with Mercury coming in to help you out as well. On the 9th, we have Venus moving into Virgo from Leo, so from your second house to your third house. Finally, she's moving here. She's stayed forever in the sign of Leo, so you've done a lot of work in that financial and self-worth priority type of stuff, and now in that third house you're looking at, okay, how can I build long-term connections, and how can I think better about myself? How do you improve the health and well-being of your surroundings, your siblings, relatives, your mindset? And there can be some just this sense of fulfillment with your colleagues and co-workers, so like there's more fulfillment wherever Venus moves. But Venus on the shadow side over here can become a little bit self-critical, like this is not good enough, I need it to be better in order to be fulfilled, or this has to work the way that I want, and this has to be done the way that I want in order for me to be happy and fulfilled. Okay, so that's a shadow expression. We don't have to go there, but if you generally have certain tendencies like that, just remember that, okay, this is this aspect that is bringing this feeling up, and whenever these feelings come up, it is for it is to attract some type of resolution, or just enter our awareness so that we can do something about that, right? Or like understand it, accept it, something like that, right? And again, that is going to be different for each and every person. Same day, we have a square between Mars in Libra with Pluto in Capricorn. Now, Libra again is that fourth house. We talked about that extensively, and Pluto is in your seventh house of partnerships, one-to-one connections, and Pluto is still retrograde at this time. So there can be a general sense of powerlessness that either your partner is feeling or you are feeling with regards to your partnership, because you have these other things going on in your personal life and you don't have the time to change your partnership for the better, or to go out and meet new people, and or assert yourself within relationships or find the right kind of people, right? So this square brings about a certain level of frustration, and that's what the squares are all about, but they spur us into action. It shows us that, okay, this I do not stand for. Okay, this is not working anymore. This is not floating by anymore. I can't just sit here and be complacent. I need to do something. I don't know what it is yet, but I just gotta do something, right? It lights up that fire a little bit, and fire is very important. It is our willpower, right? So it is something that spurs us into action, maybe not right away, but soon enough. On the 10th, we have an opposition between Venus and Saturn. And Venus is in Virgo, your third house, and Saturn is in Pisces and is retrograde in your ninth house. So again, that communication sector, collaboration sector is opening up, and there can be some back and forth that's going on with a foreign national, or it can be your mindsets that you're battling, like, I want to manifest this, but then I also have beliefs that are contradicting what I want to manifest. Let's say I want to go abroad for my higher education or teach somebody, but I'm so used to my local space and I really like it. There's nothing really wrong over here, so it doesn't give you much ammunition to push forward into that other space. But Saturn being retrograde here is like, let's restructure things. Maybe it's not the country that you were imagining first, but perhaps there are other places out there that are more your fit or more your style. All right. Now, this also talks about your relationships with certain authority figures, specifically mentor figures. If you yourself are a mentor, this can be about, your students liking your teaching. Perhaps you're switching things up, the way that you approach certain subjects and how you guide. That is having a beneficial effect on your students or whoever wants to be guided by you. Okay. And yes, if you were the one getting the guidance, it can be that your teacher is switching something up, maybe a different way of approaching a subject, and that is inspiring for you. 11th is an important one. We have Pluto turning direct. I really love it when it does that. Perhaps not each and every person feels it very strongly. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a little bit biased, but Scorpio is still another water sign, and it is working in your favor in the sense that if the water signs are feeling good and they have nice things happening there, you are also benefiting from it. All right, so Pluto goes direct in your 7th house of Capricorn, right? And over here, it can again feel this there can be this resurgence of epiphanies and empowerment. You're like, okay, this is what I want. This is what makes me feel valued. And this is how I wish to value my partner. And this is my contribution. And this is their contribution. There can be kind of a resolution of certain ongoing issues, which you thought were like, well, I can't do anything about that, right? Wherever you felt like you were helpless in some way. Not that you were putting yourself there, but just circumstances and things just like happen that you just can't pay too much attention, right? Those types of situations are going to slowly start working themselves out, but you might get some type of epiphany of, this is what has been stopping me, and that itself is such a liberating experience. Now, because it's your 7th house, it can be that your one-to-one connections are the ones going through this feeling. So if they have been feeling defeated and disempowered in some way, this is the time that they're like, nope, you know what, I have to take matters into my own hands and make this work. Next day, we have Mars moving into Scorpio. Now, Mars rules Scorpio, and it is in your 5th house, and therefore it is going to fuel you. That fuel that we were talking about already on that 9th is now channeled with Pluto turning direct, with Mars moving into its strength. You are feeling more inspired than ever to create joy, to manifest joy, to make stuff happen. Okay, Mars is super fiery, and in the very deep water sign, it becomes quite research oriented. It wants to dig deep. You might feel very called to get into certain spiritual modalities or practice certain spiritual lessons you've learned before. You have high manifestation strengths as well, high creative talents, and you might find lots of inspiration around you as well. If you have children, this can mean that there's a lot of busyness that's going on in their life. They might be asked to do a serious project or something, and they're having to think differently or work differently. They might ask you for help in all of that, and you're like, okay, I don't know this subject. I'm just gonna read through a little bit so that I can help my kids out. Now, if you're trying to have a child as well, this can be a time of great passion. Scorpio is the zodiac for intimacy. Mars is the planet for passion. So both of them coming together, it shows that there can be, you might meet someone that you want to connect with, and there is strong emotional connection, but that also fuels into that passion that you feel for one another. It's just a very deep time for you, and because it's at that trine angle, it's going to help you feel so much better about yourself as well. It helps you understand yourself, release certain subconscious fears, doubts, shadows, and things like that related to creativity, self-expression, children, as well as romance and dating. So if you've been having thoughts thoughts such as, maybe I can't meet anyone new at this stage, or I'm not just comfortable with all of this new ways of dating or whatever. Maybe I'm too old for this or whatever, right? This can be a time that you're like piercing through that thought and you're like, well, that's no such thing. There's no such thing that you're too old to learn something new or too old to do something new. And that if you've experienced certain bad experiences with regard to, dating or children or something like that, this can be a time where you're like, I'm just going to push past that, because nothing can hold you back when Mars is in Scorpio, especially if you want to get out of it. Okay, again, this is all potential. If we want, we can just suppress it more and get angry, and we can just be bubbling with our strong emotions and all of that. That would be the shadow side. But then all of that potent energy that I'm talking about, it just gets misdirected, right? Next day, we have a trine between Mars in Scorpio with Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn is retrograde, yes. So this again affects that 5th and the 9th house. There is personal expansion, lots of fulfillment and growth. You might find that you're enjoying more, but because it's Saturn, there is a sense of responsibility as well. So you're not overdoing anything, but at the same time, there can be certain breakthroughs with regards to your mindset, your belief system as well. So it's like, I hold myself back by, self-deprecating thoughts, or I've learned that this is the only way to success, or this is the only way to be creative and also be successful, or whatever. So switching those things up, and maybe that was wrong and I can think this way or that way and so on, that itself can be quite powerful. On the 14th, we have a new moon eclipse. It's a solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, and that falls in your 4th house of home and family. So there can be some unexpected new developments going on here. I've made zodiac specific reading for eclipse only. Okay, there are 2 eclipses this month, so they have some separate things going on that I wanted to talk about. So that's in a separate reading. If you're curious, you should check it out, because it's really fated events that occur with new moons, full moons, especially when there are eclipses. So yes, and especially because it falls in your your 4th and the 10th house. This eclipse of Libra, and then Taurus is also being activated later in the month, so it really brings about certain closures and new beginnings as well. It's a pivotal axis. The 1st, 7th, 4th, and 10th, these are very important ones. So yes, I would really recommend you check it out. But regardless, there are certain big changes that are happening in your ancestry and lineage, what you want to be carrying forward, what needs to be let go. Because the South Node is here, there is going to be a certain level of letting go and detachment as well. It can even be your personal life, right? How do you associate with yourself? But if there are certain toxicities that are going on underneath the surface, this can be a time where you're like, oops, okay, that's not great for me, so I'm just gonna let that go. All right. All right, now 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st, they are conducting a whole mini story amongst themselves, so I'm just going to go past them quickly. We have the Sun, which is in Libra, right opposite the North Node in Aries on the 18th. Next day, we have Mercury opposite the North Node. Mercury is still in Libra already, and after that on the 20th, it's as though after the Sun and Mercury have their separate meetings with the path of fulfillment and life purpose and all of that, they are convening together and they're discussing, okay, this is what we talked about with the North Node meetings. Now what do we do collectively so that we can make it into reality? So on the 21st, we're doing something which is a bit of a change from what we're generally used to, in order to bring those epiphanies and realizations into reality, into practical, implementation. So what this could be for you, this can be how to balance your personal life, your family life, improve your relationships, for general, because the 4th house is the base of your chart. It's from where everything else rises. So it's important that the health of the base is maintained, or the balance and the harmony is restored, right? So the Sun and Mercury on the 20th can be a time of epiphany or some important conversation that you have, because it means that whatever that discussion was with the North Node, it comes to our conscious mind. And on the 21st, it can feel, because it's a square aspect with Pluto, again, it can feel like a little bit of frustration, or like there's something that just doesn't fit or doesn't work, or there just needs to be a different approach or something. But this is a time where you feel this extra boost of, this cannot fly anymore. I know what I have to do. I just have to make it happen right now, right here. No more dilly-dallying, okay? On the 22nd, we have Mercury moving into Scorpio. So from Libra into Scorpio, it did quite a lot in the past few days, right? So on the 22nd, it's like, okay, my story in Libra is done for now. Let's move to your 5th house of creativity. Again, this gives you some brilliant ideas, lots of inspiration. You might discover certain manifestation abilities you have, or if you are already aware of what skills you have or how you manifest and all of that, this can be a time that you're putting that into deeper practice. This is also a time where you're getting a deeper awareness of yourself, your parenting style. You might be having some important conversations with your children as well. On this particular day, it is quite pleasant. Whatever conversation you have, it can feel like it's a nice milestone that you've reached, and it's a good one that you've talked about certain topics. It can also be with regards to love and romance as well as dating, that you are talking about, again, some deep things which improve your mental, emotional intimacy. It can be talking about certain fears and insecurities and things that have held you back with regards to your childhood or past experiences. And through doing so, you kind of learn each other a lot better, and it makes you feel like, okay, there is some potential over here. Okay, now the same day we have a trine. As soon as Mercury enters Scorpio, it also trines with Saturn, and Saturn is in Pisces and retrograde in your 9th house. So yes, this is that general sense of expansion and fulfillment that I was talking about. It can be that you're meeting someone from a different background as well, if you don't have a partner and you want to attract someone. It can also mean that whatever creative work that you do, this is showing some type of recognition. You might be learning something new as well, which is quite inspiring. And you're like, yes, I'm going to implement this from now on. Same day, we have Venus in Virgo in that 3rd house of yours, trining with Jupiter in Taurus in your 11th house. This is social houses as well. Jupiter is retrograde at this time. So this can be talking about, all right, we have this beliefs and this mindset, and what needs to be changed or revisited with regards to your, social environment, your connection with humanity, friendships, your hopes and aspirations. How can you improve the quality of the things that you've already expanded upon? So let's say you've made lots of new friends. How can you deepen your bond with them? Okay, now because it's a trine aspect, it's going to be quite blissful and fulfilling. And in any struggles, unlikely, but in any struggles, this is going to bring in certain resolutions as well. On the 23rd, the zodiac season changes. The sun moves from Libra into Scorpio. Wherever the sun goes, that's where illumination, awareness, focus, and our conscious drive exist. So instead of focusing a lot on your home and family or your base of the chart, you're now moving into that creative side of things as well. And you're looking into your children, childhood, creativity, love and romance, and trying to see how you can transform certain things that are, let's say too obsessive or too much of one thing, too concentrated and all of that. And the sun in Scorpio is illuminating the deeper, darker things that we generally don't want to see, or we just miss because it's so subconscious. And by doing so, we become more aware of ourselves, and that helps us connect even deeper with the people that we are already connected with. So it's a very important one. Once again, like I said, you might feel quite inspired and research oriented, spiritually oriented as well, and that itself can be quite fulfilling. On the 24th, we have another trine. The sun moving into Scorpio is then trining with Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is retrograde, and again, this helps you with restructuring certain long-held belief systems or societal conditioning. It brings you more sense of growth and expansion as well, wherever you felt a little bit stuck, or at least you have the realization of what does hold you back, or what does make you feel stuck, and therefore you get the power back in your hands to transform as you please. On the 28th, we have that full moon eclipse in the sign of Taurus that falls in your 11th house of hopes, dreams, aspirations, as well as friendships and social networks. So again, big pivotal changes happening here, and this is going to be the last Taurus eclipse we're going to see for quite a while. So yeah, there can be some important chapters closing out, or realizations happening, and lessons that you're going to absorb and take into your life or your expertise for the long haul. Same day, we have Mars in Scorpio opposite Jupiter in Taurus. By the way, I talk about the eclipse again in that eclipse dedicated video a lot more for your zodiac specifically as well. All right, back to what I was saying. What was that? Yes, Scorpio and Taurus. So Mars in that fifth house, right opposite Jupiter in Taurus. This is a little bit of the overdoing it, but not knowing that we are overdoing something. Okay, because Jupiter is retrograde, it can be like, yeah, I mean, I can do it. Yes, for sure. This is exciting. It's awesome, and all of that. There can be an intuition because again it's at a beneficial angle to you, so you might feel intuitively that perhaps this is a bit much, but I just have to do it. Okay, for some or the other reason, there is a certain level of imbalance here. In hindsight, you're going to know what exactly was off kilter, but maybe not on this day. On the 29th, we have another opposition. Mercury in Scorpio is right opposite Jupiter in Taurus. Again, a little bit of like over promising, or lots of conversations happening with friends, existing friends, and so on, and it can be a little bit tiring at this time. But because again this is at favorable angles to you, even though it's tiring, you still might enjoy it, right? It can be quite deep, and you learn a lot, and you just get back in touch with certain friends you've lost touch with, or you just continue growing on a connection that was left behind a little bit because of whatever distractions. And the same day, we have a conjunction between Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. So again, you might be thinking about what you need to do next, or what activities are going on. There might be a general sense of busyness, or lots of thoughts going on, and so on. Watch out for obsessive thoughts. Okay, that's a shadow of Scorpio, can't help that. But yes, because it's in a favorable angle, I think you're realizing, you're recognizing, and you're implementing certain transformations. On the 31st, we have another trine. This is between Venus and Uranus. So Venus is in Virgo, your third house, and Uranus is in your 11th house and is retrograde at this time. So this is still making more sense of what changes have been introduced already, starting, let's say, May, not so much, May, June, July, and even August. And I know Venus did a lot of work in putting everything into places, or like trying to brainstorm of how it can work while she was in Leo. But in the sign of Virgo, I think she's more along the same wavelength as Uranus and what it was trying to initially create. So there can be certain mindset changes and understandings, recognitions, and conversations that help you create some type of change internally in your outlook, so that, or in your marketing efforts as well, if this is connected to your business, by the way, so that you are better set for future breakthroughs or any new financial endeavors. And well, there was something else I was picking up on. Let's see. There was some type of expansion. Oh yes, I was going to say that there can be a new take on an ongoing project or a venture. So let's say you wanted to help people out through volunteer work, and now with this Venus trine with this, you're like, sure, let's volunteer, but how about instead of there, we try to do it this way? Instead of raising money, how about I volunteer my time? Something like that. There's a different take on it here that you are choosing to do, or you might feel called to do from the inside out, that is making you feel quite, fulfilled, and as though you're on the right path in some regard. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.